Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, WWF One Planet Leaders series, Leading Together, H&M and WWF. My name is Lucinda Broad, and I'm the Community Manager for the Managing Sustainability Working Group here at 2 Degrees, and I'm going to be your host for this webinar. I'm delighted to introduce you today to Jochen Verbener and Helena Helmerson, who will be presenting today. Now, after today's presentations, there's going to be some time to address any questions that you might have. So you can submit a question to me at any point by typing into the Q&A box, which you'll find on the bottom right-hand side of your screen and pressing send. These will then be addressed by Jochen at the end. And if you have any problems with the technology or audio during the presentation, please use the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen to send me a message. From the drop-down menu, just select to send the message to the host, and I'll get back to you. Okay, so I'm now going to hand over to Jochen for the first part of today's presentation. Over to you, Jochen.
Thank you very much. I hope everybody can hear me well. Welcome everybody, and thanks for joining this collaborative effort from H&M and WWF. So I first want to introduce a little bit the One Planet Leaders initiative, which is because this webinar is part of that in cooperation with 2 Degrees. The One Planet Leaders initiative is actually an initiative of WWF on business education, innovation, and thought leadership, and bringing that to the business and wider communities. We develop and run programs in partnership with leading business schools, some of which are stated below. IMD, the University of Exeter, we have a specific MBA program, and the business school of the University of Cape Town. We will soon launch another effort as well. The One Planet Leaders team also runs in-company and tailored in-company trainings, which can be very useful in terms of thought leadership and bringing thought leadership and cultural change related to sustainability. So that as an introduction to the One Leader program. And for the next webinar after this one, I'm pleased to announce that we have Hazel Henderson on the 18th of June. She's the founder of Ethical Markets in Media and the creator and co-executive producer of its TV series. She's a world-renowned futurist, evolutionary economist, and a worldwide syndicated columnist on sustainable development. She's also the author of the book Ethical Markets, Growing the Green Economy a couple of years back, and 8 other books. Thanks for joining. I will now gladly introduce to you my co-presenter, Helena Helmerson, who will take on the majority of these slides, and you will hear more from me later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jochen. This is Helena. Welcome again, everyone. I'm going to first start to introduce a little bit for those of you who are not familiar with H&M, who we are. I'm trying to change the slides. There we go. H&M was founded in 1947 in a small city in Sweden called Västerås. It was a guy named Erling Persson who saw the need for affordable fashion for women, and apparently he was up to something. Today we have a vision to make it possible for all people to buy fashion that is affordable with good quality and that's made responsibly. Today, Erling's grandson, Carl-Johan Persson, is the CEO. H&M is publicly listed on the Swedish Stock Exchange, and the family is still holding the majority of voting rights. We have more than 2,800 stores. Actually, today I saw that we have 2,900 stores in 49 markets. We have roughly 104,000 employees, and the turnover last year was 141 billion Swedish crowns. We don't own any production facilities by ourselves, but we work with around 800 independent suppliers the biggest part in Asian countries such as China, Bangladesh, and India, and Cambodia. Around 20% of the production is in Europe. So this is our CEO, Carl-Johan Persson. We have a sustainability vision saying that all our operations should be run in a way that is economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable. And that means that sustainability is integrated in the business. It is part of the company goals, and all departments and countries have their own sustainability agenda. However, integrating sustainability is definitely a journey that takes time, and different departments and different countries have different kind of readiness levels and need support according to that. Where we have the longest experience is in our supply chain, and that is also where we have the biggest sustainability program. Our goal and ambition is to be in the forefront. And when we talk about being in the forefront, we don't only compare ourselves with competitors, but also with other companies within the industry and also big companies outside the industry. So sustainability is a natural part of everything we do. We want to be at the forefront within people and planet, and at the same time meet our profitability goals. And then a growing and profitable H&M shall be a benefit for the outside world. So why are we working so hard with sustainability, and why do we want to be in the forefront? If we go back like 10-15 years, we see that the sustainability program was mainly based on future risks. Today we see a big change in that. There's amazing opportunities with working with sustainability. And being a good leader and being in the forefront means that we need to work both with risks and opportunities. This is one example, the resource scarcity. To the left you see oil prices, to the right you see wheat and cotton prices. This is definitely a risk for us, but also an opportunity. According to UN, by 2030 the world will need at least 50% more food, 45% more energy, and 30% more water. This can easily be made into a clear business case for a big company such as H&M. Also, when we look at our employees, our own staff, we see that we meet a lot of young people, and we see that this is definitely a group that wants their employer to be responsible. This is very important to them. And also we see that making our own staff proud about H&M is a great way to have a positive impact on loyalty. Also, we of course have our own values. And this is really the core and the basic within H&M, that we work with sustainability because we want to. This has been part of our values ever since Erling Persson started the company in 1947. And this is very embedded in our nature. Moreover, we are a very customer-focused company. And we also see when meeting customers, we do a lot of customer surveys. And we also have focus groups with customers, asking them a lot of questions about the shopping experience and what they feel about H&M. And here we definitely see an increasing awareness among our customers that more and more sustainability is an added value. And to have a very strong customer offer in the future, it's crucial to show them that we work in a serious way with sustainability. When asking questions such as, do you actively look for environmentally friendly clothing? Last year, 26% of our customers globally said yes. To be able to reach our goal of being in the forefront, we work with 7 commitments, and these 7 commitments also show that our sustainability program is very broad. Different departments, of course, work and focus on different commitments, but they are provide fashion for conscious customers, choose and reward responsible partners, be ethical, be climate smart, reduce, reuse, recycle, use natural resources responsibly, and strengthen communities. To be able to handle this, we have a very big organization. Except for this being integrated in the business, we have around 180 people working focused with sustainability, with people and planet. The global and central sustainability department here in Stockholm is a group of 20 people. And then we have people working in the sales organizations and also central organizations here in Stockholm. But the biggest part of these 180 people is within the supply chain. That's around 110 people working with different kind of initiatives and of course also auditing and monitoring. So sustainability within H&M has a value chain approach. Our decisions impact sustainability. And it all starts with the design process and it ends up with the customers and recycling. So I'm going to give you some examples about what we're doing within some of these steps. When it comes to raw materials, we have a clear goal that all cotton should come from sustainable sources by 2020, and that's why we are so engaged in the Better Cotton initiative and also why we're the biggest user in the world of organic cotton. The water impact is high in this stage, and that's one of the main focus areas when working towards this cotton goal. If we look at the fabric production, that involves big use of chemicals and water. So this is a stage in the value chain where we are involved in many different initiatives, such as zero discharge of hazardous chemicals and also PACT that I will touch upon a little bit later. When it comes to garment production, we have more than 80 auditors that work with our suppliers on social compliance and environmental performance in the factories. Monitoring suppliers is definitely not enough today. We need to work actively to reward the best performing suppliers, but also to help them improve certain areas that are industry-wide and industry challenges. We are involved in many different initiatives and projects focusing on safety, workers' rights, social dialogue, wages, water, chemicals, energy, etc. Most challenges are industry-wide, which means that the key to success often is collaboration. And one example of a collaboration and an agreement that we just signed is the Fire and Building Safety Agreement in Bangladesh, where we are many brands together with the Global Union Industry All, who will work for raising the bar in the industry. And of course, this stems from the terrible accident that we just saw with Rana Plaza in Bangladesh that I'm sure you all heard of. We work a lot with transport service providers and their environmental performance. We work in the stores with energy efficiency and also customers. We want to engage with customers more and more. And that is also part of why we launched earlier this year a global garment collecting initiative that you can find in all countries where we operate and where we make sure that used garments get recycled. So, one of our most important focus areas is water. And why is that? Well, we do see a strong link between water and textile. For example, it takes more than 10,000 liters of water to produce one pair of jeans. And roughly 40% of the world's population live in severe water-scarce areas at least a month of a year. Water being a human right and H&M having a third of our suppliers' factories in water-scarce areas, or will be by 2025, makes water being a very obvious focus area for us. We see the risk perspective, but also the opportunities to drive positive change, and that's really why we focus on water. Working with water is definitely not new for H&M. We've done that in different ways, and these are some milestones starting in 1995 when we launched the first chemical restrictions list. I'm not going to go through them all, but give some examples. In 1997, we published the Code of Conduct, where wastewater treatment was part of that. In 2002, we started doing inspections of wastewater treatment in supply chain, and we also initiated collaboration with WaterAid. In 2005, we started to work with the Better Cotton Initiative, and 2009, we started to work focused with different product groups to save water. It's been mainly denims. And 2011, we started with the first conscious collection from more sustainable materials. And this was not the first collection that we worked with. This was the first time we called it conscious. But the year before, we also had a collection called Garden Collection that showed great success with our customers. 2011, we committed to zero discharge of hazardous chemicals. 2012, we joined a partnership called PACT. This is a multi-stakeholder program involving many international brands and Bangladesh textile suppliers with implementing partners such as IFC and Solidaridad. And PACT aims to reduce environmental and related social impacts that result from prevailing practices in textile wet processing. And then in 2013, we launched the water strategy and partnership with WWF. So, how to drive change? We've been working very actively within this area for many years. And we clearly see that certain issues have different kind of impacts in many parts of the value chain. Water is one of these issues and these areas. We often see that driving change is done best together with others in collaboration. And that also involves that we need to change our own operations. We also need to inspire and make sure that the suppliers change their own behavior and implement new methods. We also see the need of inspiring business peers, working broader in communities and having a positive influence on policymakers. So that is a little bit the background, who we are and why we decided to work with WWF in this partnership. This is the partnership vision, saying that H&M and WWF will address water impacts and risks in the H&M value chain and key river basins. We want to take a clear leadership and inspire others within the fashion industry. So why have we chosen WWF as a partner? WWF is one of the world's largest and most respected independent conservation organizations with over 5 million supporters and a global network active in over 100 countries. They have a strong and global and local presence and very wide experience and knowledge that we want to bring into our whole value chain. WWF is also a critical partner that can push us in the right direction to make even more improvements. And there are many benefits of the partnership. From H&M's perspective, this is a great opportunity for us to manage business risks better, to understand exposure to water risks and the social and environmental conditions in watersheds where H&M is operating, and also to enable mitigation of these risks, and of course turn them into opportunities to build readiness for increased disclosure demands, to also showcase cutting-edge sustainable production standards to both customers and competitors, and also drive improvements of water ecosystems. And then, of course, leverage WWF as a partner in water stewardship. So with that, I hand over to Jochen to give the WWF perspective.
Thank you very much, Helena. That was excellent. From our perspective, and let me also say that thanks already for the people that start to ask questions in the Q&A boxes. Thanks for that. We will come back to that. But from the WWF perspective, this relationship is very important, and we see it as innovative. And why, actually? Because so many people think that WWF stands for this saving wild animals. But actually, about half of our work is related to things related to our footprint and making sure that that is also being reduced. The work we do on water is very much related to our corporate engagement, which in itself focuses on work with companies on climate issues, soft commodities, and fresh water. And we have a long-standing history of working together with companies on water, and H&M is certainly not the first partner with which we work on water, but in many ways it is a little bit different, and I will indicate a little bit later why that is the case. For WWF, H&M is important because it's a major and leading company in a priority industry for WWF, given the typical impact of this industry in many ways on the environment. And H&M is active through its supply chain in WWF priority river basins, including the ones, the key ones in China, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan. It also helps to inspire others with this new holistic approach, because that is the most innovative part of this, that this is not a combination of bigger and smaller efforts in itself. It really looks at the entire scope of everything that has to do with water and the company itself, and looks how it can improve the situation by itself and by working with other stakeholders. And we believe that this relationship can really have a positive contribution to water management at the local level, local river basin level, which is so needed. WWF has developed a water stewardship approach a couple of years back. For people that are not that aware of this topic, the water topic and water stewardship in particular is quite a recent topic, which started, the discussion with companies started actually about 10 years ago, when companies realized that not having enough good quality water could have direct operational impacts on their business, and therefore also financial impacts. Then what happened in the last 10 years is that more and more information was requested and was developed. Data sets were developed, footprinting concepts were developed, the concept of water risk was developed, and maybe a holistic framework for all of this is called the water stewardship approach, and WWF's approach I will discuss right now. So very important, is a very recent development, and a lot of things have been tested and piloted, but needs now to be brought up to scale. And what's new in this relationship, that H&M looked at all the 5 steps that I will discuss. So for us, water stewardship means starting by understanding yourself as a company, but also making your suppliers and customers understand what are the global water challenges that we face, and also how the product or service of that company is related at the highest level to fresh water. The second step is actually to have a better and detailed understanding of the impacts and risk related to water to a particular company. So here, having good monitoring and measuring practices in place, doing regular risk assessments, etc., are key. Doing something about it based on that information that is gathered in the other two steps is the third step. It's what we call internal action, but it includes actually also the scope of the supply chain. Things that are relatively under control by the company, and companies can actually further increase water efficiencies, reduce pollutions, and make sure that everybody is clear on who is actually responsible within the company for water and its availability and quality. So those things can be controlled by the company themselves. All those first three steps are things that a lot of companies have taken action on, and a lot of experience is there. However, doing these first three steps will not ensure that the company will not face spectacular business-related risks because of water. Because even best practice companies still reliant on water will be able to face significant risk if they are in a situation or in a river basin which has significant problems. And that requires then the real stewardship approach, what we call the top 4 steps on collective action and ultimately influencing governance, making sure that the river basin is managed properly with good regulation that is properly enforced, and where companies, communities, public sector, and NGOs are working together to make sure that the shared risks of water for both the environmental, social, and business needs are managed well. Of course, the top 2 steps are difficult. It's difficult to bring the different stakeholders together to make sure that regulation is enforced and all those things, especially in the most troublesome areas of this world. Here, WWF has experience in many places of the world, but still we can say that we're in the beginning phase of many things there. For us, this scientific background of our work is important. So WWF has developed a lot of research and scientific background and publications on all the 5 different steps, which is important for us because we can always rely on those. And those in itself are based on pilots, on particular partnerships, on studies, on cooperations with other NGOs. So, or what you can see here are some publications that we've written together with the United Nations, the Global Compact, CDP, and other partners. And this is just to illustrate that the different steps have been thought through properly in the last couple of years. With the H&M water strategy, what we did is we went through a phase together where we assessed, where H&M was completely open actually about their water situation. We were able to ask them everything on how they were operating, what they were monitoring, experiencing, etc. And what we did is combine that with an overall risk assessment. What are the key business risks related to water for H&M? But also, what are the key impacts that the company is having? And the outcome of that was clearly that with regards to water, the key impacts of the H&M value chain are in the raw material part and in the wet processing part. So we had the strategy focuses on those two elements of the value chain. And finally, also the production volumes, where they're producing the most. This helps to define the focus regions and also the key deliverables. Actually, the majority of the deliverables will be valid for the entire H&M company across the world, but especially the stakeholder engagement part, which is so labor intense and will require a long-term effort, building up a network, etc. Will focus on key focus regions. The new H&M water strategy then was approved by the board of H&M a year ago, or less than a year ago, and it contains deliverables on all the 5 steps. And in some cases, H&M was actually already pretty far, and we tried to push them even further. In some other cases, it really meant that they had to step up, and they were willing to do so. And that work has started. I think for us, what is so important here is that this whole holistic approach has been taken, not just bits and pieces. And I think that is really interesting. And we see when we started to announce this in public, a lot of other companies have shown interest in this approach as well. I think I'll leave it at that for the moment and give it back to Helena, who will talk about the specific deliverables.
Right. So if we look at the first step, water awareness, that is a lot about training. A big staff education program will be launched for all 104,000 people within H&M during 2013 and 2014, where water is one very important part. Supplier training is also key to spread best practices about water management, and we also want to engage more with customers how to use water more responsibly and to continue to communicate about wear and care that we already started. The second step, knowledge of impact, is more to understand the present state and today's performance. And we need to collect a lot of data and analyze that to see possible risks. This will also go into a more detailed water risk profile and will be important for us to be able to prioritize in a correct way and set a clear action plan that will also involve, for example, technology transfer. When it comes to the third step, we want to work even closer with our suppliers to find out what good looks like and to set requirements on water management. This will also be linked to the HIG index. For those of you who doesn't know the HIG index, that is a sustainability product score that is developed by academias and many other companies within the industry, where we are aiming for a product sustainability index in some years coming ahead. To implement programs in the supply chain, such as water efficiency and wastewater treatment, will be important in this step. And here we have a long experience, but we want to improve our support even more in this implementation. The biggest impact lies in the second tier, where the fabric is produced. We have mapped our biggest fabric suppliers, and we are involved in different initiatives, such as PACT that I mentioned before in Bangladesh, and also a mill development program. We want to work in a more systematic way to see the risks and also to find a good method to mitigate those. If we continue with 3B, this is about implementing better tools for risk analysis, for example, when we enter new markets or when we start with a new product type. We also want to work actively in the design process to embed water criteria. Today, we use a very important tool for our designers that is called the Made By platform, working with different sustainability criteria where different materials are categorized with different colors depending on their environmental impact. And we work closely with Made By to strengthen these criteria. Governance is about knowing who is responsible for which part in the value chain and to thereby be able to act very quickly. Step 4 and 5 are areas where we have not until today worked in a very systematic and strategic way when it comes to water. And this is about stakeholder engagement and public advocacy. There are many different stakeholders involved, such as civil society, we have water institutions, NGOs, etc. And we do need to work together to create these results. Together with the CEO Water Mandate, we are working with guidelines for the human right to water, how to strengthen our work when it comes to both respect and remedy. We have a lot of textile production and also a lot of customers in the area of Yangtze River Basin, and that is why we have chosen to work together with WWF on a local freshwater conservation project in Yangtze. And here, of course, we also work together with local stakeholders. Step number 5 is to learn more about how to have a positive influence when it comes to public advocacy, and again to together with WWF work more strategically with that. So that was the presentation that we wanted to give. Thank you for listening, and if you want more information, we will soon have a Q&A session, but if you want more information after that, please don't hesitate to contact any of me or Joshem.
Thanks, Elena. This was our presentation, so thank you for listening. I can see a lot of questions coming in on my private chat and also on the Q&A. Let me try to do as many as possible in the time remaining, and I will start with the ones that I feel I can answer, and then some questions are actually directly related to H&M and to Helena, so I will hand over to her at that point. One of the questions that was asked from Stephanie, I understand that part of the issue comes from the fact water coming into the plants is already contaminated. Shouldn't it be down to the public authorities to clean up the water first? Yes, in theory that is the case, but that's not how it in practice works in a lot of the developing countries. Therefore, the role of corporates in the public policy debate is so crucial and can be so important. And what we saw with other WWF projects and partners in other parts of the world is actually that in some cases it's much more cost effective for companies to work, to spend money and capacity on working together with the local authorities to investigate how certain services can be improved, and including the enforcement and monitoring, rather than becoming much more efficient. So that's a very interesting approach. And how to be involved in public policy as a company, WWF has written down its experience together with other NGOs in a well-downloaded publication together with the UN Global Compact CEO Water Mandate, which can be downloaded as well on our site. Everything related to this is hard work. It's long-term work, but unfortunately, at the moment, some public authorities are just not able to live up to the expectations. And please, Stephanie, let me know if that is not a right answer to your question. Francis asked, or is mentioning, we're now starting to see the devastating results of climate change, especially severe prolonged drought. Water sustainability will soon be a critical business issue. What is your view on water footprint of becoming an important business disclosure requirement? From a business point of view, that is clearly the case. But for us, it's not just the water footprint. It's the holistic perspective of how a company is working and related to water. The disclosure part is, I think, very important, and also the demands from the regulators and investors are increasing more and more. Important efforts from the Carbon Disclosure Project, the Dow Jones Sustainability Indices, UNEP-FI, and the individual regulators and banks are very important to follow for businesses, because these requirements will increase only. WWF is often involved in establishing the right disclosure requirements, but for us, the leading initiative is, again, from the UN Global Compact CEO Water Mandate, which aims to develop standardized disclosure requirements. Anna Gaderhaert, what does it take to make a water review, and can all WWF countries conduct one? This is difficult. That really depends on the particular relation that one has. I see a question coming in from Stephanie Forsblom. Nice to see you again, Stephanie. Please elaborate on the topic water footprinting to investigate best practices. What sort of best practices are you hoping to find from the water footprint? This relates to the previous slide on I think this one on particular practices. What we try to do is bring the existing scientific reviews of different textile processing technologies together, because there is a lot of information on that, but not an holistic image, and try to see what kind of textile processing technologies would have the lowest impacts on a broad level, so not only water, but also other aspects. And water footprinting can help to actually compare the different technologies and processes. So that's how we hope to use the water footprint work. Let me try to see the other ones. Raphael Rietke, what software tools is H&M using to measure and reduce water usage globally? I think, Helena, that's a question for you to answer.
Yes, so we use different kind of tools to measure water. So far, we've been mostly focusing on wastewater treatment, where we can easily measure that with our own software tool. And all the parts in the code of conduct where wastewater treatment is one part is something that we measure through an index. Moreover, we've had different product types where we have gathered data in different ways to look at how can we decrease the use of water. For example, we've done that with denim trousers, mostly in Bangladesh, where we have managed to save 450 million liters of water during last year, which is roughly a third of a denim trouser. So we have so far used a lot of own tools to gather data and to set goals and KPIs to handle that. And then a very good thing about working with WWF is then to try to gather all these kind of initiatives, KPI and projects into one more holistic approach, and also work more with stakeholder dialogue and public advocacy. I see a lot of other questions to H&M. If I could answer a few, Joachim, if that's okay.
Please go ahead.
Yes. If I start with, I got a question saying from Francis, does the incident in Bangladesh affect H&M in any way? And what is H&M plan in ensuring its continuous sustainable supply chain going forward? And of course, that was a terrible incident, so it does affect us even though we were not a partner to that, or we did not have any orders or any production in Rana Plaza. But of course, since we're one of the biggest buyers in Bangladesh, this is still something that affects us. And we've been working with securing buildings and also fire safety for many years, and we have been driving initiatives together with our suppliers and together with engineers to secure fire safety since there's been incidents. We have also produced films to raise awareness, both with factory workers and also managers within the factories. So this is not new, but of course what happened was terrible, and it's not good for the industry. What is good is that we're many who signed the agreement, and now that we together can make much more positive change, that is truly something that I believe, and having a common force where we together with engineers will really try our utmost to set goals and improve the industry. Then we have another question from Stephanie saying, you just mentioned that you help suppliers improve. H&M doesn't own its suppliers, so how can you make sure change will be implemented? And how will it be financed? This is a very big question. I will try to answer it as good as possible. When we measure performance through our Code of Conduct index, we clearly see that in one country there's industry challenges that we will have to try to help the suppliers to deal with. And then usually we start initiatives or projects around that, usually together with others. That could mean, for example, in Bangladesh, that could mean improving the social dialogue between workers and their employers. It's a lot about training and setting the right KPIs to also measure success and to set goals to really make sure that things are improved. But I would also say that building systems within the factories is crucial, because if we don't build systems, then it's not really sustainable over time. Of course, we would want that even though we would one day leave a factory, that improvements would stay. That's sustainability to us. How will it be financed? That's a bit different depending on what it is, but of course we put a lot of resources into this, and in different projects we of course help suppliers to also finance this in many ways.
Yeah, Helena, if I may add to this with regards to the financing, I think this more strategic approach and working to the H&M and WWF's goal to bring in other industry players, both from the buying side as well as on the supplier side, led to interest from development financial institutions to learn of this approach, and they showed interest to potentially co-finance investments in new technology, which will be more sustainable. So linking the different dots together, I think is crucial, and that WWF and H&M cannot do it alone is also clear. So I think that is the challenging and fun part of this relationship is working with the other stakeholders.
Yes. We have another question from Sarah. What is the biggest water challenge that H&M faces? It's not that easy to just pick one. I will elaborate a little bit, but why we chose to work also with WWF again is to take more of a holistic approach, to not only do initiatives in one or two stages of the value chain, but to actually see the total picture and know where we have the biggest impact. But if you look at the value chain, I would definitely say that raw materials and fabric production is where we have the biggest risks and also impacts. And that is also where we have quite long experience from working, but where we would like to still improve our way of working. And we also see that when we work with a supplier or a fabric supplier, us improving standards is not really driving the kind of change that we would like to see. And that's why we also have to inspire others to follow, but also to work in communities and to work with stakeholder dialogue and public advocacy to really try to drive that kind of positive change. I hope that was answering to that question. Let me move on to one more. That's from Claire, asking about strengthen communities. I'm interested in the work H&M are carrying out in order to strengthen communities, if you could elaborate a bit. And here we have many different projects and initiatives where we try to work for strengthening communities, and that's of course based on different risks, especially when it comes to human rights in different countries where we operate. We have examples with UNICEF working with children, for example, in India, in the cotton cultivating area of Tamil Nadu, where we work with nutrition and also helping children to go to school instead of working in the cotton fields. And here we have really seen great results from working with an organization like UNICEF. So we have also started a big project together with them now in Bangladesh that will run for 6 years. We also work a lot with water aid in different regions, and as I mentioned before, we're part of the Better Cotton initiative, where we also help farmers to improve cultivating practices, but also that they will be able to improve their profits through this program and thereby having a better life. So that's just a few examples. There's much more on that, but you can also see more in our sustainability report.
Yeah, Helena, I see also a question on the does Helena have any insights in water use and organic farming? Which is an interesting question. Do you want to answer that, or shall I have a go at it?
You can start, Joshua.
Yeah, I think more interesting is where this organic cotton is being farmed. So as most of you know, water is a local issue, and the water footprint of a particular crop is very different from place to place. So I think that would have the biggest impact. The fact that it's organic, it's not itself will tell you a lot about the water use. That is a little bit different from the Better Cotton initiative, which has particular aspects in its protocol to reduce water use. So that's a little bit that will be my answer. Elena, do you want to add something to that?
So that means that H&M, we're trying to drive different initiatives in parallel to be able to, for example, in this case, reach the goal of more sustainable cotton by 2020. We work with both Better Cotton that is very scalable, so that will mean that by 2020, when we've reached that goal, the biggest part will be Better Cotton. But we will still increase organic cotton as much as possible. They have, as Joshua said, different types of criteria. They are both good. We will work with both of them to increase, but today there's not enough organic cotton to be able to reach 100% of our cotton use. So it's really two great initiatives and two great ways in how we can make our products more sustainable.
Thanks, Helena. I think I also see a lot of questions on the CO2 emissions, but I would suggest, given time, that those answers can either be found on the H&M website or you would contact H&M directly on this. But there is an interesting question from Ilka to Helena. Could you be more specific how you would drive change internally and overcome negativism amongst own employees and at suppliers in the supply chain? So is that the one you already answered, or
I can elaborate a little bit more to be more specific on that. And I guess this question is not only about water, but in general the work that we do. We have different ways of doing that. A great way is to find good ways of setting goals that can be measured and having company scorecards to follow up performance, of course. But we also have more specific tools, like for example using risk assessments and also try to find ways to remedy these risks. And that is, for example, a tool that we have made ourselves, but we've taken a lot of comments from different stakeholders to be able to do that in a good way. So when we enter, for example, new markets, that we know which areas to focus on, and if we enter a market where we see big risks, that we also, with our presence, can be part of improving that. We also have staff education that I spoke about. We've had that before, but now we will soon launch a very big staff sustainability education to all our staff, where one part is water, but also, of course, different parts in the value chain. I would say also conscious collection is a great way in how to integrate and internally work with sustainability, how designers have started to use more sustainable materials in their products, and how we try to engage with consumers and inspire them to act in a more conscious way. We have different measurements also in how to reward suppliers that are performing the best, and this is a very, very important KPI for us to follow.
There are many very interesting questions, and I hope we have somehow the time to answer them maybe offline later. But we're ending we're closing, coming close to the end of the session. A question from Richard: which particular achievements in the improvement of the state of a particular water resource can you point to as an outcome of the partnership? Well, the theory is, or the theoretical answer is maybe easy. That is measuring the current state, and that it should have a certain level of improvement in a couple of years' time at the end of the relationship. The practical answer is much more difficult because, first of all, the measuring is difficult, and as many of you know, understanding the actual impact of one of the players or a set of deliverables performed by one of the players is actually very difficult to measure. So this is a more scientific effort, and WWF, together with other conservation NGOs, is in the process of determining how conservation-related key performance indicators can be established. But this is a long-term process, and it's very, very hard to establish. Let me try to see if we have one last one that we can answer. Maybe more a general question to Helena as a final one from Ellen. Is the sustainability team at H&M a profit center or a cost center? And if the former, do you have a financial target to work against?
That is such an interesting question. I've never really seen it that way, but of course, our work is really we're trying to find a lot of business cases to show that sustainability is actually profitable. And in some cases you can do that, especially when it comes to cost reductions, for example. You can, to a certain extent, also do that when it comes to resource scarcity or different kind of risks. And some of them we are still in a situation where it's difficult to find these kind of business cases. And of course, I think that to be able to drive sustainability in a very strong way, you need to work both based on values that we want to make change, even though we sometimes can't see a business case. We would choose to do it, and sometimes a business case is needed. So, and here in general, we work with cost centers, but I would still say that we measure goals very carefully, and also the business benefits sometimes when it comes to these goals.
Thank you, Helena. I will now hand over to Lucinda, who will close the session.
Thanks, Joachim. Okay, I thought that was a really great presentation, so thanks both to you and Helena for your time and for answering all those questions. Really delighted by the number of questions we had in, and as Joachim mentioned, if you do have any that weren't answered, we'll try and address those after the session if possible. We have made a recording of this session, so I'll be posting that up on the Managing Sustainability group on 2 Degrees, probably this afternoon or tomorrow, and I'll send that out to you probably again later today or tomorrow afternoon, along with the slides as well. So that's it from me. Thanks to all of you who've joined, and I hope to see you on another 2 Degrees webinar soon. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.